have that up and going.
All right.
There we
We're here
go.
today. We're here today on Country Pocket with Courtney Hartman. Once upon a time, a member of Della, now embarking on a career with a slightly different band member. Her new album is called With You, and I wanted to sort of go into two themes on this album. The first one you just heard, Like a Woman, which really just at a point in my life where I'm taking on a lot more and a lot different responsibilities. Um, it it reached me in that when you're living in this new mode, when you're suddenly looking at little lives and wondering, what can you do to preserve them, you
Hmm.
you you need like another level of parenting almost. You need a crash course in your new reality.
Hmm.
So tell me about the mothering you received upon becoming a mother.
Hmm. That's such a lovely question. I think I was really almost startled by the desire that I had for mothering, to be mothered and cared for as I became a mother. Um, and that feeling, I think, is familiar. I think a lot of I, maybe it happens to both parents. That sense of like, golly, I need guidance, and how in the world do I do this? What is this all about? But I think there is a really innate need as the birthing person, for that extra care.
Yeah, you're going through this crazy thing, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, let's take it back a step. You are one person, then you're one and a half, and then you're two.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that little transformation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I just wanted the presence of other women surrounding me. And so that song, like we I wrote it with Sarah Siskin, who's just such a she's it's been such an inspiration to me. And I wanted it to kind of span outward, to not be fully contained by, like, you know, motherhood is an experience of womanhood. It's only one experience or one kind of facet of womanhood, and I wanted this song to speak, to open and kind of bloom even more broadly into how we as a sisterhood support one another and show up for one another. And so each verse kind of like takes on a different frame. Um, and yeah, just like covering for each other. That's that's the sentiment of it, what I wanted to express.
What's the best piece of advice you got about this whole mothering thing?
Mm, I think maybe to slow down. I feel really good when I'm doing things and like checking lists off, and so there's a lot about me personally that kind of grates up against like the presence and pace of a small child. Even now, just like watching my daughter, who's now 3, almost 3, she'll be 3 in a couple weeks, watching her try to put her shoes on or do something, and my instinct is to say, is to like rush it along, but the practice of saying in her own time and and continuing to do that work of staying present and slowing down. It's a struggle for me, but it's an important thing for me to struggle with, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand the desire to be going quickly because, on
Mhm.
the one hand, you have to handle all of that yourself, sort of stuff. So,
Mhm.
like in my instance, making lesson plans, that type of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but then at the very same time, you can't ever slow down enough to just focus on yourself because you also have to,
Mhm.
be present and watch all the little things going on and deal with all those little well-being elements. And
Mhm.
I don't know how you could slow down. uh I don't know how you can slow down with a kid in the house, right? It's
Mhm.
you're I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for people who are able to take it all on.
I think that's the thing. I think we're often told we can take it all on. But the reality is we can't take it all on because our we're limited. We're humans, which means we're limited. And what I've sensed is a clarity in what is actually important and what maybe doesn't matter. What I can like shed in my life and let go of. And I have to do that. Like weekly it feels like that, clarifying, but it's necessary.
So now that you are you know now that you are slowing down a little bit, I'm assuming this album isn't going to be supported by the same conventional tour.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that was a big thing for me as far as looking and noticing what feels life-giving and sustainable for me in this season. And I think the music industry wants us to think that the only way we can continue to create is if we're on the road all the time, or that we're failing if we're not on the road all the time. Um, so there's been some reckoning to do in my own heart and desires as far as that goes.
so one of the songs that really struck me is one called Can You See?
Mm.
And you you ask this question that can't be answered because someone that young
Mm.
can't really answer it. They can't
Mm-hmm.
conceive of it. But sort of combine that with everything at once. Are you feeling like adequate and capable in the moment?
Hmm. In some moments I am. Can you see? I love that that one hit something in you. I wrote it initially, like the just early seed of it was kind of written for my husband. And even then, when it's sung to an adult who can articulate back to you what they see, it's still not really even a question you can ask. Um, but even more so for a little one. And so you wonder. That song more than any others has made me cry while singing it just because that question can sometimes feel challenging and the love feels really deep, right? Um, But feeling adequate, I think more often than not, I don't really feel adequate. Um, yeah, that's a thin place in me.
I mean, I guess I'd ask, why not? Um,
Hmm.
I look at all these things you wrote, and it's extraordinarily clear how deep the love is. Um,
Hmm.
looking at looking at your home, it doesn't seem like everything's smashed to bits or on fire,
thank the
which
thank the Lord for that.
tells me you're doing a little better than me and my cat are. Um, so
Hmm.
when it comes to adequate, I'm just wondering, like, what is the worry? Because it seems on the surface that you are doing this.
Hmm. Yeah, that's such an important uh, question. What is the worry, right? Like to go to go through the day and be able to ask that, and yes, there's so much we can worry about generally, feel anxious about, but most of us most of the time right now is okay. We're here and we're safe and we are enough. I don't know. I don't have an answer, I don't think, as to why I would feel that way sometimes, but it sneaks in, you know? I think we live in a society that it's so, it's actually impossible with the way that social media works in our minds to not compare our lives to other people or compare life seasons, and um, being content is like a learning contentment is a I think it's a superpower. Not one I've fully tapped into, but really learning that presence.
Yeah, uh, it's hard sometimes to, like you said, tell yourself slow down because
Hmm.
some of it's, I'm sure, for your daughter, and some of it's got to be for you. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not, if you're, if you're not occasionally, you know, letting yourself recover, then
Hmm.
first it sneaks up on you and then everyone else. And
Hmm.
it's, no, I get that notion that you're talking about, the imposter syndrome, where
Hmm.
even when you have everything handled, you know, there's just something in your head that says, well, kind of nervous about this. And if
Hmm.
everyone notices I'm nervous about this, then they'll know that I'm a fraud. And it's like, by the
Yeah.
time you're done playing out all the scenarios in your head, you've accomplished it.
Yeah. You have. And I don't think it's bad to like constantly kind of put yourself in those scenarios. In the last like week, I played one event. I played at church on piano, which I had never really played piano outside of our living room. And then I played a couple tunes on fiddle for another thing. And both are like I can see my capacity on those instruments is limited, and I feel certain that I'm going to be found out. That I'm going to play the note that everyone hears, and it's so funny how I've done so much performing and playing music in front of people, but just the tiniest new thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, you know, have my own little freakouts. But it's good, and then you do it, and it feels good, and you grow, and it's important.
Piano and fiddle, huh? What happened to acclaimed guitarist?
Um, just didn't wasn't necessary. Not for those moments.
Well, let's take a quick break. We're gonna listen to Can You See? And we'll be right back.